All right, guys, now we've moved on to the main event for 231. Really, really good fight, guys. I think that this is a type of fight that we have wanted to see from the UFC for a long time. We just haven't gotten to see it. You know, we've gotten great fights, but it's really difficult to get the two best to fight each other. Not because of the matchmaking. It's not so much because of the matchmaking. The matchmakers want to put these type of fights together. It's just that between injuries, between the time that you need off in between fights, all of those things like timing, trying to put it together right, it's sometimes those type of fights evade us. Right? Like we haven't seen Tony versus Khabib. And I don't think we're ever going to see it, to be honest. I'm not sure if we'll ever see that fight. But that's another one of these fights where you see two greats in the division. And it's tough to even have two great fighters in a division like that just seem to be on the same page, you know? All right, anyways, let's get into it. We're talking about Max Bless Holloway versus Brian T. City Ortega. Max Holloway is the featherweight champion of the world. He is putting his belt on the line against one of the toughest jiu-jitsu players in UFC right now. You know, that guy gets a lock in, you're done. You're toast. So this is a really great matchup. Max Holloway, a little bit more blue collar fighter. He really doesn't have the glitz and the glamour. No one punch knockouts. No real beautiful submissions. Everything with him just it's all grimy. You know, it's all very grimy, but that's why people like him. That's why I like him. That's why I like him. He's a fighter. He's out there throwing hands. And he does it well. He does it well. He likes to throw hands too, and he does that very well. Max Holloway is a boxer, a very unorthodox boxer. Both of these fighters are big for the weight class, but Max Holloway comes off as incredibly long. You know, he's a rangy fighter, but the difference between Max Holloway and say a JJ, who also likes to fight at range, is every once in a while, he just steps in and plants his feet and throws hands. He'll step right into range, plants his feet, throws hands, and then he's out when you're throwing your counter. He's gone by the time you throw your counter. Great eyes for such a young man. He's 26 years old. I believe this will be his third title defense. If he beats Ortega, this will be his third title defense. Hats off to Max Holloway. Really, hats off to the guy. He has truly been a great champion insofar as that guy keeps the action going. He'll fight wherever it goes, but he definitely keeps the action going. This year has been a tough one for Max Holloway because, you know, he's had his fair share of different, missing weight and also the health scare that he had, right? Where he was a little, I don't even know what happened, but he was acting like he was concussed. You know, truly, he was acting like he was concussed. He seemed like he had been, he was just suffering from a concussion, from a severe concussion. I'm not talking about a mild concussion, a little small one. The big boy. He looked like he had been suffering from really big concussion. So it's just been a really tough year for Max Holloway. He also said that he struggled with depression. He was open about this on Twitter and open about it in videos and in interviews. So I do think that he is handling it the best way possible. I do think so. And I hope so for the guy. I really do. He's a young guy. He's got a lot ahead of him. You're talking about Max Holloway can go up to 155 right now and be a stiff contender for that belt. That's the type of fighter that he is. Okay? So that's Max Holloway. Let's talk about Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega. Actually, let's go back to Max Holloway real quick. I want to pull up his record because I know before Max Holloway even fought for the belt, he went 10-0. I mean, not 10-0, but he had 10 fight win streak before he actually fought for the belt. So let's see. Max Holloway is 19-3. He's 26 years old, by the way, just so you guys see that, the numbers. 24 fights at 26 years old. Might be weighing on him a bit. Might be weighing on him a bit now that I think about it. Just so many miles on such a young body. 1, 2. So in the UFC, Max Holloway is 16-2. Max Holloway has not lost a fight since August 17th, 2013. He lost to Conor McGregor. But so when we do the numbers, the guy hasn't lost a fight in 5 years. That's just the numbers for you. He'll be on his third title defense. Let's move on to Brian T. City Ortega. Brian Ortega has an interesting run in the UFC. He's 27 years old. Bit of an interesting fighter. He is. Look, Brian Ortega is undefeated. He trains with Henner Gracie. So he trains with one of the Gracies. And I believe he also trains at Black House. So for this camp, I saw him at Black House on the Countdown show. So he had those guys helping him train. Interesting thing about Brian Ortega. Every single fight in the UFC, every single fight has been a finish. Not one fight in the UFC has gone to the judges. Brian Ortega has Brian Ortega has finished fighters in the third round. He has finished fighters in the third round. You're talking about a guy who is always going for the finish. Always going for the finish. Always going for, and it's not just submissions. His hands are getting better. He does have a significant boxing coach, a boxing coach that rolls with him, been teaching him for I believe since he was a teenager. So he's had that experience with his coaches. They know him, they know him, and they know how to train this guy because his boxing has gotten better and better and better each fight. Every single fight, it gets a little bit better, but the main thing about Ortega is he will wrap that neck up. He will wrap that neck up in a guillotine or a triangle. This guy's got triangles. He's got guillotines. He got a flying guillotine. That last fight against Cub Swanson, the fight before Frankie Edgar against Cub Swanson, flying guillotine. He's got nasty triangle chokes, but here's the thing about Brian Ortega. He is a bit of a slow starter. A little bit of a slow starter. He's actually always kind of losing the fight a little bit. And then all of a sudden, he just finished you. Just like that. Really great fighter. I mean, I have enjoyed watching Brian Ortega. Even though I like Max Holloway, I think I've just enjoyed watching Brian Ortega because there's something about him that comes off like an underdog. Because you'll just be watching the fight, like that fight with Diego Brandao. He was losing that fight. Straight up losing that fight. Then all of a sudden, it's a submission. And it's like he's the underdog the whole time, and then he finishes you. So Brian Ortega has managed to kind of ride low key in the division. It's not until recently people realize this cat is dangerous. This dude is dangerous as hell. He will take your head off with a choke. He'll choke you out. Jiu-jitsu is just so good. It doesn't matter where he's at, where you're at. Spatially, he's going to find it. Your neck. He's going to find your neck. He has an affinity for the neck. Anyways, guys, fight pick. This one is for the featherweight strap. It's such a tough call. It really is such a tough call. I've got Brian Ortega. By 4th round submission. Yeah, I think he's going to get him in the 4th. I think he's going to get Max in the 4th. I hate to say it, both of these guys are really good fighters, really respectable fighters, professional fighters. We know that Max Holloway has missed weight, and also Brian Ortega has popped before, but the way that they have handled it on both sides, so professional. Young guys, 26 and 27 years old. They have a long career ahead of them. They're not at the end of the road. So it's such a tough pick because I just love the fight But that's what I'm rolling with. T-City, 4th round submission. Anyways, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Leave your fight picks in the comment section.